I always say that walleye in America is not just a fish, but a true legend of the northern states. In Minnesota, it is called the Walleye Capital of the world, and these are not just big words. Every winter, the lakes here turn into huge fishing cities. When I first saw hundreds of tip-ups set across the ice, I realized that people take walleye fishing very seriously here. Anglers come from all over the country to feel this magic, and today I will show you what it looks like from the inside. Walleye is the American cousin of our European zander, but with a slightly different character. Here it is officially called walleye, and it is considered the tastiest freshwater fish in the United States. That is why hunting for it has become a real cult. Let's start with why tip-ups are so popular here. In many states, you are allowed to set several per person. This makes it possible to cover large areas of a lake and search for active fish. I arrived at the lake before dawn when the sky above the ice was just beginning to lighten. The frost bites at your cheeks, and inside, there's the anticipation of a big bite. These are the mornings you remember for a lifetime. In the US, tip-ups are called tip-ups, a word you will hear from every local angler. The design seems simple, but behind this simplicity lies decades of experience. A classic American tip-up is a round or cross-shaped platform that covers the hole. In the center, there is a spool with line, and on top, there is a flag. When a walleye takes the bait, the flag shoots up, and that's when the real adrenaline begins. You see a red flag waving on the horizon and run toward it, sliding over the ice. At that moment, it feels like your heart is beating louder than the wind. But before you start running, you need to understand the classification of tip-ups. In America, they are divided into classic mechanical, thermal, and electronic models. Each type has its own advantages. Classic mechanical tip-ups are the most common option. They are cheap, reliable, and do not require batteries. That's exactly what I recommend beginners start with. Thermal tip-ups look a little different. They have a closed design that protects the hole from freezing over. This is extremely important in American winters when temperatures can drop to 25 degrees C. There are also electronic tip-ups with alarms. They can send a signal to your phone or pager. That's a completely different level of comfort and a completely different price. Today, I am using classic mechanical tip-ups. They have been proven over the years and have never let me down. In this video, I will show you how to set them up correctly. Walleye is a night and twilight fish. It bites best at dawn and before sunset. That is why you need to set your tip-ups while it is still dark. I start by drilling holes along the break line. Walleye likes to stay where the depth changes and the bottom is hard. That is exactly where it ambushes its prey. In America, walleye is often caught on large lakes such as Lake of the Woods or Mille Lacs. There, the depth can change literally within just a few meters. These are ideal conditions for tip-ups. I set my tip-ups at different depths to find active fish. One at 4 meters, another at 6, and another at 8. This way I cover the entire water column. Now let's talk about bait fish. In the US, anglers most often use fathead minnows or shiners. These are small but very hardy fish. The bait must be lively. If it is sluggish, the walleye quickly loses interest. That is why I always change it every 2 or 3 hours. Hooks here are usually single hooks or treble hooks. I prefer single hooks because walleye is cautious, and with them you have a better chance of a solid hook set. Another important detail is the leader. Many Americans fish without a metal leader, using fluorocarbon instead. Walleye does not have teeth as sharp as pike, but you still need to be careful. When everything is set, the most interesting part begins, the waiting. You sit on your box, drink hot coffee, and watch the line of flags. Any one of them can come to life at any moment. And then suddenly, one of them pops up. You run over, look at the spool, and see it spinning. That means the walleye already has the bait in its mouth. Here it is important not to rush. I always give the fish a few seconds to turn the bait. Only after that do I take the line in my hand. Setting the hook on a tip-up is not a sharp jerk. It is a smooth but confident motion. That way the hook sets securely in the corner of the walleye's mouth. You fight the fish by hand without a rod. You feel every surge of the fish. It is a completely different sensation compared to spinning. Walleye fights to the very end. It can suddenly dart sideways or try to dive deeper. The main thing is not to let it go under the edge of the ice. When the golden side finally appears in the hole, your heart stops. That is the moment you stood in the cold for hours for, and you realize that it was all worth it. In America, there are strict rules about the size and number of walleye you can keep. They are different in every state. Before every trip, I always check the current regulations. This is important not only because of fines. Walleye is a strategic resource and must be protected. Many anglers practice catch and release. But even if you keep one or two, it is already a huge success. Fresh walleye in a frying pan is something incredible. That is exactly why it is so highly valued here. Returning to the classification of tip-ups, I also want to mention homemade versions. Some Americans make them from improvised materials, but I always recommend buying factory-made ones. Factory tip-ups are tested in extreme conditions. They do not break in the cold and are not afraid of strong winds. This is very important on large open lakes. Another type is the so-called high visibility tip-ups. They have very bright flags that are visible even in a snowstorm. I specifically brought a few of these for today's fishing. When the wind picks up and starts covering everything with snow, they really save you. Without them, finding your tip-ups would be difficult. In the US, walleye fishing with tip-ups is not just a hobby, it is a social event. People come with their families, bring grills and tents. On the ice, you can see real houses with heaters. Inside, there are couches, TVs, and even Wi-Fi, but I still prefer the classic format. For me, the best fishing is silence, the crunch of ice, and distant flags on the horizon. It is in moments like these that you truly feel nature and understand why walleye has become America's cult fish. Every trip of mine is a new experience. Walleye does not forgive mistakes and every little detail matters, but that is exactly what makes this fishing so exciting. I always tell beginners, don't be afraid to experiment, change the depth, the type of bait, the distance between tip-ups. Only this way will you find your own key to walleye. Experienced anglers, of course, already have their own secrets. Some use attractants, others use special glow-in-the-dark hooks. In the US, this is a whole industry, but even with the most expensive gear, you can come back empty-handed. Walleye is a fish with character, and that is exactly what makes every bite so valuable. Today, I was lucky. By morning, 3 of my flags had gone up. 2 walleyes went back down the hole, and 1 stayed with me. I always feel respect for this fish. It is strong, cautious, and incredibly beautiful. Holding it in your hands is a real reward. When the sun rises higher, the bite weakens. But I still stay on the ice because I know that by evening, the walleye will become active again. That is the magic of tip-ups. You are not just fishing, you are watching the rhythm of the lake and becoming part of this great winter performance. In America, many people start exactly with tip-ups. It is affordable, understandable, and very effective. That is why this method has not lost its popularity for decades. I always recommend bringing spare flags in line. In the cold, any little thing can fail. It is better to be prepared for anything. Safety is another important point. Ice can be treacherous, especially on large lakes. I always check the thickness and never go out alone. But when everything is done right, fishing turns into pure pleasure. You disconnect from city life and just live in the moment. That is exactly why I make these videos. I want everyone who watches me to feel this atmosphere, to want to go out on the ice and set their first tip-up. Because walleye knows how to make you fall in love forever. Even if you live far from the northern states, this story can still inspire you. The principles of walleye fishing are similar all over the world. You just need patience and love for what you do. And every time I see a red flag against the white ice, I feel that same childlike excitement as if I were catching my first fish. And that feeling never fades with the years. That is why fishing for walleye with tip-ups in America is more than a technique. It is a lifestyle. Stories passed down from generation to generation. Every state has its own features, but the spirit is the same everywhere. Respect the fish, respect the water, and come home with good memories. That is the main rule. I finished this day with tired legs and frozen hands, but with warmth in my heart, because I know I have lived another perfect winter day. When I pack up my tip-ups and look at the sunset, I don't want to leave. Walleye has taught me to appreciate simple things, silence, cold, and waiting. If you are just starting out, don't be afraid. Every master once did not know how to set their first tip-up. That is where every great fishing story begins. And to experienced anglers, I will say only one thing. Walleye will always find a way to surprise you. Even if it seems you know everything about it, it will still remain a mystery. Thank you for spending this day with me on the ice. I hope my story has inspired you, and maybe very soon you will see your first flag on an American lake too.